Hello, and welcome to the Painted Bread Quarterly Slush Pile. We are so glad that of all the pods you have choices for, that you're choosing this one. So, what we're about to do is what we do almost every episode, where we read a submission and we discuss it and we vote on it all right in front of you. And we're very grateful to today's poet, Annie Cantor, for allowing us to discuss her work on air like this. And again, thank you for listening in to our editorial meeting. So I'm Kathleen Volk Miller. I'm at my home on my bed on my phone instead of my laptop and all that stuff, but it's all good. It's all good. I'm happy to be here. And I'm going to bounce it all the way up to Canada. Hi, Dagny.
Hi, Kathy. Thank you. Yeah, I'm at home too, in my home office up in Canada, just outside the capital, Ottawa, and it's very gray and very rainy outside my window. So, yeah, it's a good day to be huddled up with you guys, ready to talk poetry. So I'll roll it down to Sam.
Thanks, Dagny. Hi, everyone. I am here at the Georgetown Library, where I have a wonderful view of a place called Book Hill, which feels appropriate. Um, and I am just also glad to be here. I'm going to shoot it back up to, I think, Philadelphia with our newest podcast contributor.
Thank you. I'm in Brumont, PA, a little outside Philly. So I'm like just peeking out. It rained all last night, so I'm just very happy for it. I'll bounce it to Lisa.
Hi, good morning. And that was Reese. That is she's our newest podcaster, and we're really glad to have her live from Philly this morning. This is Lisa Zirkle, and I am in Charlotte, North Carolina, where we are just desperate for rain. It is going to be 90 degrees today in April, which is just way, way, way too hot, too early. So send us your rain, everybody. We need it. And I'm gonna toss it over to our pal Toby.
Hi, everybody. It's so good to be here with you. I am calling in from New Haven, and yeah, I mean, I'm sad about the hot, the plants dying in the Carolinas, but I'm happy that my plants are outside and no longer crowding my windows in the apartment. So, yeah, I'll send some rain in whatever way that transaction occurs, because I think we're getting some.
Yeah. How about that, Lisa? We have the same temperature. We're 98 degrees as well. And they say it's breaking records today and tomorrow.
Yeah, that's too
Yeah.
hot.
Next week, we're back into the 60s. So 1 week of summer, it's just a clothing issue. What do I do? What do I do? Um, and Lily's with us. Hey, Lily. So happy to have you so consistently. And we'll just jump right into the poetry. And again, this is Annie Cantor's work. We've got 3 poems. And the first one up is Wolf Peach. Who would like to read?
I can read.
Thank you, Sam.
You're welcome. Okay. Wolf Peach, one steam capable of turning people into monsters. The inside of the tomato is dark, no matter how vivid, how vitamin rich. Darkness is everywhere, and they say if I open my eyes to the shadow, I'll see reality as it is. Even war has its beauty, cruelty its place. Learn to live with it. Don't be fooled. The peach that bursts in its own sugars, disappearing in cobblers and pies, could beget a tomato, and has made horrors of unsuspecting gardeners. Know its fat, blank face, its bloodthirst, lest you end up like the good egg, conjurer of casseroles for funerals and bedsides, that storybook apple of everyone's eye. All the darkness in the world surrounds her sunny inside, but she loses every time. Still, the peach is a peach, and the shakshuka, the shakshuka.
Oh, nice read, Sam. I felt like you were telling us a fairy tale.
Well, thank you, Dagny. Mhm. Yeah, I feel like it's that one stanza, its own sugars disappearing in cobblers and pies, could baguette. It almost has, that a metrical unit, and the visuals are very, Hansel and Gretel, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, that's so funny. That was absolutely my favorite part too. You went right to it. I'm glad. I always love when that happens, like in the middle or sort of the middle,
Me
you know.
too.
And that burst is kind of like what happens right there. It's lovely. I feel though, like there's references that I should know. Like, are tomatoes dark? Like, are they an evil? Like, are they considered poisonous by certain people?
They
Or
were considered poisonous for a long time. I mean, I'm a gardener, I've read
Mm,
up quite a bit about tomatoes over the years. I didn't really I didn't really think right away though about the association, Kathy, with witchcraft, but they did become kind of synonymous with witchcraft. And
oh,
so tomatoes are of the group of plants called nightshades,
right.
many of which are deadly. So it's not completely crazy that tomatoes were thought of as deadly, but one of the reasons why they were considered to be deadly is down to what, we're familiar with today, right? Which is rumor, not fact. So tomatoes were brought over to Europe. People were eating them on their pewter plates and dying and chalking it up to tomatoes. But in fact, it was the lead in their pewter plates they
Oh
later
my.
realized. But I guess just the kind of confluence of tomatoes arriving when
Yeah, that makes so much sense that the tomato acid would be a different sort of
it,
vegetable, right?
exactly.
Instead of
Other
potatoes,
foods,
carrots, potatoes, carrots, potatoes, carrots, you throw a tomato on there.
yeah. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden you've got
Wow.
problems because they're so highly acidic, right? So,
Wow. Fascinating. Thank you for that.
And I did also read that there is some German folklore in reference to the nightshades that said nightshades were used to summon werewolves. So I think
yes,
that's the reference we have in the
yes.
lead. And a wolf peach is a wild poisonous tomato.
Yeah.
So there
Considered
are
to be
some poisonous
savage.
tomatoes on this planet.
What's that,
Okay.
Kathy?
So there are some poisonous tomatoes on this planet.
Yes,
Wolf peaches.
Well,
that's right.
again, it's crazy that tomatoes, potatoes, and eggplant are all nightshades, and many, many, many other nightshades are actually very poisonous, to the point of being deadly. Um,
Those are some of my favorite things.
yes, exactly. And they go together so well, right?
Yeah.
So,
Wow, wow. Um, okay, I appreciate all of that. So if let's go ahead and stay on references,
yeah.
lest you end up like the good egg.
Right.
What's that, please? Anybody know? Slushies, I hope you see what I'm doing here for you. I'm proving to you that we don't read or discuss in advance. Live. It's live, this dissection and understanding of the poem. Does anybody know what I mean? Now, interestingly, Peach also gets a cap P, uh, about half a dozen lines before, but then Slushies again. If you go to pbqmag.org, you will be able to see these poems on the screen in case you have any questions about how it's set up. This is a couplet, a single line, a couplet, a single line, very, very skinny, like 4 words long, maybe each line. But we are talking about right now that a couple words were the Annie Cantor decided to capitalize. And I don't know what lest you end up like the good egg. I know what it means to be a good egg, but I don't know about the good egg.
Nor do I. Does anybody else?
I was thinking that maybe good egg. I was almost thinking like goody two shoes. Like it's not associated with witchcraft or death or lead pewter.
Yeah,
Just,
yeah.
it's a
Okay, so
little bit of
just
a
good egg, like any good egg, not necessarily the. Like with that the there, I really thought there was a good egg I don't know about, but you just mean like the way we use that expression.
And that
Mhm.
I'll say too that in towards the end of the poem, in reference to the good egg, it's gendered. So it says surrounds her sunny inside, but she loses every time.
Oh, well,
And
yeah, yeah, right. Yeah.
so that's an interesting layer to the good egg.
Oh,
And
Mm,
and you're
and this
and that's that is a reference to the good egg and not one of these vegetables or fruits we're discussing. I wasn't sure who that she was. If
hmm.
it was the tomato being personified.
Well,
Um,
and eggs are cracked into shakshuka, right? So it's a tomato and pepper dish and lots of onions too, and you crack the eggs right into it. So yeah, I guess there's a layer going on there.
yeah, it seems to me like this is setting in opposition the tomato versus the wolf peach slash tomato versus the good egg slash storybook apple.
Mm,
And that I think is also drawn in opposition to like dark versus light and evil versus good. And that all gets mixed up together at the end in the shakshuka. And
they're
interestingly,
commingled.
the Arabic word shakshuka means mixed.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, okay. And so
I,
that's just kind of about our humanity and how the good and the bad tend to be mixed in everyone to varying degrees, right?
Maybe.
Maybe. Well, I think we all have capacity for bad, even the goodies among us.
Oh
It's
no, I agree with that, Dagny. I'm just saying I this is my extrapolation of the poem.
yes,
Yeah,
yes, 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 yes.
if anybody ever comes to Philly, I can take you to the best shake shuka ever. So just know that.
Oh, that's a
City
nice
that's-
offer. I
Yeah,
love that dish. Oh.
me too. Me too. Um, okay. Okay, how about the peach capitalization? So
Yeah.
the good egg is just trying to like that capitalization is to have an individual.
Mm.
Oh, we don't have to work it out exactly, but
I think I think the good egg makes more sense in the constellation with the peach. Like both the peach and the good egg are kind of being proper nouned. So kind of going back to what Lisa and Dagny were saying, like it kind of gives you this kind of fairy tale chance to make each character kind of like have a personality, and the characters are just like elements of a garden or elements of a yeah, of a dish. And I think also, I guess the good egg obviously goes into shakshuka, but I also feel like as far as gardens are concerned, it could also be an eggplant, but it wouldn't really do much for clarifying the poem, but it does also have kind of like a garden position or garden derivation in it. But yeah, I think the peach and the good egg are kind of like standing in as characters slash characteristics. Because the phrase like be a peach kind of suggests that you're being kind or being nice, being a peachy
right,
person.
right there you
Yeah.
go. Yeah, Peach is
Yeah.
also a good person, right?
Yeah, I love that, Toby. Because the more I spend time with this, I really feel its fairy tale qualities, and that makes a lot of sense.
I would I would say the only thing this poem isn't giving me that I want, which it's not its fault, is that I would like more of a visual almost of the inside of the tomato, or something like that. Like I do feel like the poem builds in strength rather than starts strong for me, which, I think in some ways is interesting and exciting because I think we're more prone to seeing in the slush pile poems and stories that start strong and kind of peter out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you're quite right about that.
Mm.
I love the sound of those last two lines very much.
Mhm.
Peach, peach, shake shuka, shake shuka. I like that a lot.
Yeah, the repetition is really interesting here.
Along with this, the fairy tale quality, there's also kind of this thread of darkness and evil, monsters, shadow, disappearance, the conjuring of casseroles for funerals and bedsides. It kind of nods towards death and illness. Um,
Mm,
there's this kind of undercurrent of threat that's
yeah.
interesting in this poem.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's very natural within the context of tomatoes too. I mean, there is nothing so awful as a tomato that's turned in the garden. I mean, that's really horrifying to encounter,
Wow.
in terms of,
Thank you for that, Dagny.
oh yeah.
I forgot about that. Like they look like they're okay, and then you cut it open and it's actually black and congealed and really bad.
It's a horror show. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
And not for nothing that people used to throw rotten tomatoes at a bad performance, right? They
Yes.
stink. They're so
Yes. Oh
smelly.
gosh. Yeah, exactly. Like they just become truly awful. Yeah. Yeah. And I picked them up accidentally too in the garden when it looked good on one side, not on the other. So yeah, you don't forget that.
Welcome to the Gardening 101 podcast.
Yeah.
You thought you were listening to a literary podcast, but we just learned so much.
I do love the form. You described the form well, Kathy, for listeners, and it really is very satisfying. The couplet to the single to the couplet to the single line, and it's so slender, and it just sort of helps you to trip along the path, like through the woods, um,
Hmm.
in a
Mhm.
fairy tale. I think it's so well matched.
Yeah, really nicely articulated. I agree. The poem feels very organic to its form.
Yeah. Should we vote? We've got two more.
Sure.
What do you
I mean,
think? Yeah.
you ready? One, two, three, vote.
Oh, interesting.
Ah.
What's the
Uh-oh.
point?
Sam, what you
Oh,
got?
it's in.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, okay. All right. It's in. You took your hand down. I was like counting and I missed you. Yay. So yeah, slushies, I think you know that we throw thumbs. We literally say one, two, three, and then throw our thumbs in front of our faces, and sometimes it's hard to catch. So yeah. So all right, Wolf Peach is in. Thank you, Annie Cantar, and we move on to apostrophe. Come on, I know you all want to.
I could read it.
All right, Dagny, thank you.
Thank you. Apostrophe. Shape of an ear in the corner of a word, a speck frequently misplaced, signal of elision, shortcut to what's being said or couldn't have been. Otherwise, a desire for cadence, synonym for address. Don't forget where you're headed. Receptacle for a voice, oracle, or friend, informal. A way of getting to the point, a getting of drift, destination, a means, an end, a hands, come on, teardrop, side eye, infinite yet contained. Say, if God were part person, or sea, the sea, syllable skipper, well wisher, absent entity, substitute, metonymy, for knowing, a wild guess, an exclamation implicit for is and its opposite.
Nice reading, Dagny. Thank you.
That's not.
Well,
And
what
we
a
should, oh, I
mm,
was going to say we should say for the slushies that this poem is in tercets that are kind of uh staggered, indented lines. The first, well, they kind of shift their indentation shape. So take a look at it on the website.
Lisa, since you said the word tercet and Jason's not here, could you explain what a tercet is briefly for my brother David?
For your brother David, it is just a stanza of 3 lines. That's what a tercet is.
Okay, so the spacing, as Lisa explained, some of them are indented 1 and 3, some are indented only 2, right? Line 2, or sometimes line 1 and 3. That part isn't what matters. It's just a 3-line stanza for tercet. Okay, thank you.
I worried that this poem would be too inside baseball because it's kind of an ode to the apostrophe that it would only appeal to writers. But I love it so much. Like it's something that I would completely overlook. I mean, who pays attention to apostrophes unless they're not there and you're like, oh God, the typo, right? But I think there's a playful charm in this ode. I think it's an expansion of something that's easily dismissed or overlooked, and it kind of expands its uh, usefulness and it's an appreciation. So I found that pretty welcoming and charming.
And I love that entry point of the shape of an ear in the corner of a word. It's just, I just think it's a beautifully simple entry point so that you kind of clock what is it that we're talking about? What does it look like?
I've never thought of a word having a corner before.
No.
Or an
Mhm.
ear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I also think this poem is doing double duty because if memory serves me correct, apostrophe is also a literary term about addressing an inanimate object. And so it is, in fact, doing that to itself in a way, which I find such a fun brain scratch when reading
Mhm.
this.
An address to an address. Yeah.
Mhm.
Sam, I broke out my Essential Poets Glossary, which is just an
True.
awesome book by Edward Hirsch,
Mhm.
so that I could share the end of the definition for apostrophe. Apostrophe seems to take us back to the realm of magic ritual, to the archaic idea that the dead can be contacted and propitiated, the absent recalled, the inanimate and non-human formally humanized and invoked, called upon for help.
Mm.
Oh, I
So,
love that.
yeah, so there is that very
Yeah.
nice layer as well of instead of just the punctuation mark, but also this address.
Mhm.
What's interesting about that too is like I went digging because I'm so fascinated by all of this. And apostrophe means a turning away from, which in my mind is also a form of refusal. It doesn't have to be negative refusal, but it is, turning away from something you're kind of, putting paid to that, not letting that be a possibility anymore. But then for an apostrophe address to be effectively bringing back to life, back into being or presence, a lost presence. It's just so rich. I'm loving all of that.
Yeah, that's really interesting, Dagny, because turning away from one thing means turning towards something else. And
Yes.
I've been having a lot of conversations about apostrophe with doing proofreading for my book. And when you do happen to use an adverb, for example, after some kind of dialogue, like she said, comma, gently, there are like kind of two schools of thought in that, like the entire work, you want it consistent so that you are using a comma or not, and I'm in this school, it really depends on what you're trying to do. And it seems like the apostrophe, if it's turning away from something in a case like that, it's almost turning away from the text and towards the reader. Because when you
Oh,
something with a
yeah.
little bit of an apostrophe, it almost acts, I think, similar to a parenthetical in that you're getting closer to the reader.
Mm.
Oh, I love that. And it makes it like an aside or
Yeah.
yeah, an inclusive move. That's cool.
Yeah.
I love that,
I,
Sam.
what I
Mhm.
really love about that too is how much that speaks to those last lines, an
Right?
exclamation implicit
Mhm.
or is and its opposite,
Mhm.
Mm,
right? That whole
yeah.
turn
Mhm.
thing there, you know. And personally, it's was my biggest problem. It took me a very long time to remember it and its.
Me
Like I still
too.
have to sometimes go his. Like that's how I
Me
remember
too.
it. Like right. So I kind of really love that. I love that that's where we land for is and its opposite. I love that.
Oh yeah, Kathy, I agree.
Mhm.
That casual come on too. That was a moment that made me actually smile, I think.
Yeah, that was
Mm.
happening.
Yeah, and there's such rich sonic play in that next stanza, the penultimate stanza, or C, the C, syllable skipper, well wisher, absent entities, substitute metonymy. I'm like, yes, I'm in.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so
Yeah.
satisfying.
Yeah.
Is
And Lisa, to speak to what you started with it, like this is for a niche audience, let's just say. But who are our readers, right? Like if somebody, as we sometimes talk about, like the reader will read or they won't. They will either skip over this or they won't, right? But the people that go seeking poetry in literary magazines probably also are nerdy enough to love freaking apostrophes.
Mm.
A poem about an apostrophe. Oh my gosh, right? And now we're talking about it for half an hour. So we're catering to our audience, I think.
Mhm. I also think that like poems about punctuation, especially a poem like this that is sort of celebrating its feeling and atmosphere rather than its rules. No, it's doing the rule work a little bit is really inviting. I think there's a lot of kind of imposter syndrome around punctuation, even for writers sometimes, whether it's like with the comma that I was just talking about, or with the apostrophe, and like this sort of is saying like those feelings you have about the apostrophe might be correct, even if you feel a little bit nervous. If
Yeah.
those feelings are like, and I'm using like exclamation points, or I'm using my quotes, correct.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And you guys, some of you slushies might even know the loyalist of slushies, but the editorial team here knows that I really flinch at Ars Poetica anytime we're writing about writing, that kind of stuff. It has to really soar for me to get into it. And what I appreciate about apostrophe is its charm and humor and lack of that kind of preciousness that I don't tolerate. This doesn't have that for me.
Mm.
I love the humor. I love the things it's making me think about.
I also just want to bring up this poem is really heavy with semicolons too.
Mhm.
Like, why
Sure.
do you think? Is that like, do you think that was just uh, you know, somehow in response to like writing about this other point of punctuation, there was like a
Yeah.
move. I don't feel like the other ones are quite like this, the other poems.
I, it seems like one of the constraints of this poem is that it wants to be a single sentence. But
Mm-hmm.
even though it's not exactly a grammatical, it's never grammatical. It doesn't have the fundament slash predicate. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it seems like it wants to present itself as a single articulation, not so the semicolon gets you around that grammatical constraint. Although I haven't quite worked out in my head why it's important to be a single sentence, except for maybe just like having a period it just kind of it halts your momentum a little bit too hard, and
Yeah.
the semicolon allows you to kind of continue in a different way.
Well, you just used the word constraint about it. I actually could see the poet saying, it'll be really fun if I make it one sentence,
Yeah.
right? And I use all this other punctuation in interesting ways, right? I love the semicolon, and I noticed that too. But somehow I actually didn't notice that there was only one period. I noticed all the semicolons and their use. I probably love the semicolon because I ramble, so I'm always.
And well, it's effectively also a list poem. And semicolons are commonly used to punctuate lists.
Items in the list. Yeah.
So I just love how much is going on here. That that
Mm.
all of these things are true.
And also if we go very lowbrow with the semicolon, it is sometimes used as before the time of emojis as a wink, and it does seem to have that playful
Mm.
um convey that playful meaning to me as well, especially when we get to the side eye, teardrop side eye. I could see it carrying that meaning as well. I'm not sure that's what the poet intended, but it could be a wink.
I love it.
What's how you guys can help me out. How does the C skip a syllable? Is that about the waves?
That's the way I took it.
Okay.
Oh, I thought it was just because it was only one word, the C syllable skipper. I don't, which also works, I think.
Ha-
I was
Would
also thinking of Skipper as
the
the
captain?
captain
That's what I
of a
was going to
ship.
say. It seems to work for both, which is kind of fun.
If God were part person or C, hmm, the C syllable skipper.
Which becomes the sea and
Yeah.
syllable skipper.
I mean, I guess if you wanted to say ocean, but you only had one syllable, you would say sea. But yeah, it's mysterious to me, but I was curious if anybody felt like they had a very strong justification or reaction to that.
I think for me, it's like it's that moment that says, "No way did AI come up with this." It's that interesting moment where the poet's brain is doing its thing, and you get an interesting groove where you go, "Hmm, okay." But I trust it in the context of a good poem, and to me, this is that. Um, yeah.
Like,
I think we should probably vote because we do have one more.
Oh yeah.
Shall we?
Sounds
One,
good.
two, three, vote.
oh my god.
Mhm.
And it's unanimously in. Woohoo!
Woo!
Mm.
Wait,
Thank
I want to
you,
say one more
Chantel.
thing about this poem, if that's okay.
Yeah.
That let's looking at, because I just love this poem so much, and kind of talking about that syllable skipper area, I was thinking about how both in Chinese and in Arabic, which I studied, they'll put an apostrophe like diacritic. Above either the pinyin, the kind of Roman alphabet version of the Chinese sounds, or where the vowels would be in Arabic for non-native speakers who are learning about it, because we don't have that memory, or we need that indication to actually say the words in either languages, which I think is super cool to think about
Yeah.
how the apostrophe can be used for non-native speakers in different languages, in different ways for native speakers, based on that little stanza there.
So it's a signpost. That's
Yeah,
lovely. Yeah.
yeah. Such a cool poem.
All right. Well, shall we move on to the last one here? Old story. Lisa or Toby, you guys can arm wrestle.
I can read it.
Thank you, Toby.
Lisa would beat me, so I have to save face. Old story. What was it? The word she loved, what she called the most important thing, incapable of saying whether it continued through or ended in a lisping omission. Her grandson, my grandfather, the doctor, learned to nod. Yes, of course, it's all that matters. She had soft hands. They walked beside it. Sometimes it seems no more than a surface you could walk across. But then you step in and the water drops off deeper than you imagined. Whether he was talking about the lake or her old world accent, I can't say. Either way, you know how it goes. Soon it was too late to admit he didn't understand. Their walks followed the entire circumference. Whose center was that one inscrutable truth she put on repeat, blurred by an inaudible huh or or was it an e? He was a big boy, and by the time he had to go, as fate as faith or fate would have it, he no longer needed to know. So worth mentioning that this form goes back to the alternating two
Yeah.
line stanzas and one line stanzas, so alternating couplets and individual lines.
Thank
Uh,
you for that, Toby.
mhm.
Yeah. Nice read, Toby.
Thank you.
I think we should also say that in the third line, there's a word that's elided, that's TH dash dash dash. And then there's also an ellipsis in the middle and an M dash. So there's all kinds of different breaks and punctuation also being used in this poem, including a semicolon, but not as many as the previous.
No.
But good point. There's several points where things are meant to sort of trail off. Yeah.
Welcome to Fun with Punctuation. My initial reaction is I am having a really hard time. Maybe I need to just read it again myself. I don't.
Yeah.
I only know
Kathy,
understand.
I'm feeling the same way. I'm feeling a little lost. Yeah.
Okay.
My my sense, yeah, when I was reading it, the first half of the poem really kept me in suspense of like what I was gonna do next. I was like, am I gonna be reading a poem or reading what seems like italicized someone else's dialogue. So I mean, Slushy should also know that some of the lines, the most important thing, yes, of course, it's all that matters. She has soft hands, are italicized to suggest that like it's kind of like lifted from someone else's speech or lifted from someone else's memory. Um, and then the poem also like annotates the italicized lines. So the line or the sentence, but then you step in and the water drops off deeper is italicized. And then the phrase after that, then you imagined is not italicized. So it seems like the poet is like editorializing someone else's memory or someone else's language. So it does become complicated and as at the very least complex. I don't know if it's complicated, but it feels very complex very early. But my sense of the overall story is that the speaker is trying to remember something, and also the subject of the poem is trying to remember something about what someone said, about the language someone used, and the language falls out in various ways, including like forgetting syllables or forgetting syllables and forgetting what the actual sentence or the phrase was or the word was. So it's interesting, and the poem seems to argue that being exact about what that memory or what that phrase was is not exactly the point of the poem.
Right.
So I guess the question is like if you experience that sense of loss in the poem as something tangible, or if you feel like mostly just lost and confused.
Yeah. I mean, everything is interesting when you dissect this, right? Like Chobi was saying, all of that dialogue. I mean, slushies, really, this is when you do have to press pause. We'll be here. Press pause and go take a look. It's very hard to explain all the different things that happen here. But I think all of the dialogue or the speech is coming from her grandson, my grandfather, the doctor, which interestingly has no punctuation, right? Instead of comma, right? But that's all one person. Her grandson, my grandfather, the doctor. I think he's the one who says all this stuff, even the lake part, because it says whether he was talking about the lake or her old world accent.
Right. And I think that's an important place to note too, Kathy, because the old world accent, I think you get this idea of knowledge conveyed between speakers who don't share a primary language. And I think
Yeah.
there's some uh, loss of comprehension there.
Yeah.
Um, in addition to like reaching back in time and memory, maybe also never completely understanding what each other were saying.
Right. So I think our speaker in the poem could have never even met the she that begins the poem, the she that speaks the old world, right? If that's her grandfather's grandmother, she most likely never knew her. I said she for the speaker in the poem, which I shouldn't have, but you know what I'm saying? For the speaker in the poem, they would never have even known this person. So, this title, Old Story, must be that the family tells some story about this great great grandmother to our speaker, right?
That sounds about right.
Yeah, I think you've got it. I'm reminded of there's a poet in North Carolina named Tyree Day, and he has a saying about poetry that your poems can be mysterious, but they shouldn't be a mystery.
Yeah,
And I think this poem kind of walks that line.
yeah, yeah. You know, Greg Parlow says a poem isn't a word puzzle, right? Your poem is not meant to be a word puzzle.
Mm.
Same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, like I can definitely see, um, as you described it, Toby, there is like a retracing of both a retracing of language and memory and a retracing through steps, right? Through movement. But and I can see that and I can kind of see the component parts here, but for me the mystery is feeling too great. I'm not breaking through. So I really feel like I'm missing a lot.
Yep.
And there's also this action of walking around, across, and in a lake.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that
Mm-hmm.
kind of stands, I think, for me as this inscrutable saying. Also, like what is the most important thing? Like circling around it, this unknown, like you don't know its depth um or what's underneath, what's lurking there, you know. It seems this poem seems to be circling that knowledge or absence.
And pointing to the importance of the process.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I want to say that I love when a poet submits three poems that all kind of explore things in different ways, right? Like we do have, again, the same form as we did in poem one, but it's so different. All three of these, I think, were very different, even though I felt a voice that was the same. I love that she did different things in this one, you know, with
Mm.
the speech, with the, it's so, so different than the others. So I love when we get a big range of what a poet can do in a three poem submission.
Yeah, I agree, Kathy. Yeah, those sense of connections, connecting ideas and explorations across it. It's very satisfying. Yeah.
Mhm. Are we feeling like we should vote? We're coming up to an hour.
Mm.
Yeah.
You ready?
I kind of love this poem actually, but
Yeah.
anyway, the second half. Yeah. I wonder if the poem is like is like really clear in its second half, and yeah, maybe like there's a way that the first half could be like sharpened or something. But anyways, yes, we can vote.
Okay. All right. One, two, three, vote. I'm so bad at math.
Wait, I think it's through
I think we're deadlocked.
Yeah,
Or
tie.
we is it in? Is it yeah?
I think we're tied.
we're
We're tied.
tied.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I kind of like when that happens. It adds some drama to the show.
Does.
So, what we'll do is send it along to Jason for sure, and maybe Marion. So Marion Jason Schneiderman, and see what they have to say. Maybe we should only send it to Jason, because if we send it to Shu, then what if they're
we could still be deadlocked.
right? We'll send it to Jason and see what he has to say about the third one. So thank you so much, Annie Cantar. This was really just a wonderful way to start my day. I can't thank you enough for allowing us to discuss your work, and thank you guys for all being here. Does anybody have anything else they want to say?
I wanted to say, Annie Cantar, thank you for making us think so hard. It's been wonderful. Yeah.
These are so rich. There's so many layers here, and it was really fun to dive in.
Yeah.
I also want to say that I just finished Ben Lerner's new book, Transcription. And actually, I think this third poem is kind of knocking on some of the same doors as that book, which has a lot to do with communication. And it goes beyond kind of being a kind of a cell phone or a COVID novel, and has something to say about like the past and the present existing in like same spaces, which, you know, that last line about, you know, grandson and doctor and grandfather kind of reminds me of.
Interesting.
Show notes. Yeah.
I've got that one on hold, Sam. I can't wait.
Good. You'll have to tell me what you think, Lisa.
I will.
Slushies, let us know how you're doing, and everybody keep reading. Woo!
Bye, Slushies.
Thanks, Annie.
Hi, Slushies. This is Lisa Zirkle with breaking news. You heard on our podcast that the team was deadlocked on the final poem, Old Story. And after we sent it to our team for more votes, that poem, unfortunately, is not going to be published in Painted Bride Quarterly. But we're very grateful to Annie Cantar for her work, and you will be able to find Wolf, Peach, and Apostrophe in an upcoming issue. Thanks.